Okay, so um, I'm back. My name is Jericka Duncan. I'm a CBS News correspondent. And back in October, I did a story about long term unemployment, and I interviewed a woman by the name of Emily Groveman. She's a 41-year-old woman from Queens, New York, who had been looking for a job for the last 2 years, since November of 2023. So this past week, I spoke to her. She said that she was packing up her apartment and moved to a Buddhist temple in upstate New York where she was going to get free room and board and a bit of a stipend. The post, when I posted this story, it got over 260,000 views on Instagram, about 100,000 on TikTok. But I was really impressed by the amount of comments. A lot of people engaged with this particular story, 1,100 comments on the Instagram side from people saying, if you don't know somebody, you're not getting hired. And that is just the truth. To the market right now is, quote, brutal. I work in recruiting and the problem isn't the candidates, it's the companies. Even highly qualified people are having to lower their expectations just to find something. Someone said, and this was a sentiment that I saw a lot, it's even worse if you're over 50, no matter how skilled you are. So the more I thought about it, I realized that mental health was at the center, as it is with a lot of the things that we discuss in the news business. So I thought, I should probably bring someone on to break that down for us. The question being, how do people keep showing up after facing rejection as they're facing the real possibility of losing homes, cars, and stability? So I reached out to psychotherapist Elliott Connie. He's known for working with high profile celebrities. He has worked with thousands of people and takes a solution focused approach to therapy. Elliott Connie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Jericka.
So, in 1 minute, tell me who you are and why you chose this field.
Well, like you said, my name's Elliott Connie. I'm a psychotherapist, and I work with a bunch of clients, including high-profile celebrities. And I chose this
You
field
gonna
because
tell
I
us
had a
who?
no.
I'm cutting into your 1 minute. I'm sorry.
I can't tell you who, but some of them have said who on their own profiles. Um, but I chose this field because I had a really, really difficult upbringing that almost took my life. I spent a lot of my teenage years thinking about ending my own life. And when I came out of that, I came out of it with a passion to help other people who may be struggling in a similar way. So
hmm
I dedicated my life to mental health and helping people on that journey.
So, as you know, and we talked about this over the phone, this idea of people struggling to find a job is real. Looking
Really,
for a
very
job
real.
today, yeah, looking for a job today really does take a special type of mental fortitude because of AI. So you can send out hundreds of emails in a day. Then you're facing several rejections, possibly, and it's less personal. So, how are people expected to show up in this season? It's 2025. Looking for a job is different than it was 10 or 15 years ago.
True. Looking for a job is different than it was 18 months ago. I mean, it's very, very different. But the answer to that question, it may surprise people to hear me say this, but like, how do we show up in this when it's so crazy and AI is a thing and all that? And the answer is consistently. Is like you show up consistently and you constantly show up. But the other thing, and you and I kind of touched on this on the phone a bit, but I also want people to pivot. I want people to take this as an opportunity to, instead of looking for a job, to like chase a dream or build their career. Like, and I'll give you an example. There are lots and lots of people that have built massively successful businesses that started out of desperation because they've lost the job or lost the career. And while I can say it is probably harder to get noticed in the job market today than it's ever been before, it's also easier today than ever before to start your own platform and start your own program and start your own thing and build that to become successful. So the success that I see people having from a mental health perspective
hmm
is really understanding like this is their opportunity to lean into whatever their dreams were and understand via social media, via YouTube, via all of the information we have at our fingertips, that business idea,
Hmm.
that knowledge you have in your head, this is the time where you can pursue those things with much more simplicity and much less of an initial financial investment than ever before.
So that sounds very inspiring, but I do want to level set really quick and put some numbers out there. The latest unemployment numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics show the unemployment rate for September was 4.4%. That's about 7.6 million Americans. And we know we're still catching up because of the government shutdown. But
Mm,
about a year ago, that number was 4.1%. So we're seeing it tick up a little bit. A lot of
yes.
economists aren't too concerned, but they're saying, okay, it's not looking great. And then you hear from people anecdotally who tell you it's really bad, it's really hard. And I'm
Yes.
almost selling myself short, if you will, because I'm taking a job that maybe I normally wouldn't have taken because I have to put food on the table. The jobless rate for unemployed men is 4%, women is 4.2%, whites it's 3.8%, Hispanics it's 5.5%, blacks it is 7.5%. And the growth, if you want to go to a job that's sort of a guarantee, healthcare, employment and food services, and social assistance. And then, as we spoke about at the top of this, long term unemployment. The number of unemployed people, at least 27 weeks, is what is considered long term unemployment. That topped 1.8 million this summer, the highest level since 2017, not counting the pandemic's unemployment surge. So while you say you have to be sort of optimistic, be prepared to pivot, you know, yes, we have these computers, yes, we have AI, but what are the top three things people should be considering right now as they are struggling to find these jobs and they're facing rejection after rejection after rejection?
Well, I want to clarify. I never use the word optimism because I think that's kind of a I think that's almost like a almost when people are facing so much rejection and so much hardship, and those numbers you just read are, I mean, I don't want to be the person saying like be optimistic because
Right.
I think that's just too a bit too far. But if you're asking what are the top three things that people should do,
Mm-hmm.
number one is do something that brings about hope into your life, and specifically hope that you will land in a place that you are pleased with. And
Okay.
action leads to hope. So when I say pivot and put something online, let me tell you a really pragmatic situation. A friend of mine is married to a chef, and when COVID hit and the restaurant, like maybe no industries were hurt more than the travel industries and the restaurant industry, and the restaurant industry gets devastated. And this friend of mine calls me and says like my husband's really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
He just lost his job, and he had been unemployed for maybe a year, 13 months, something like
Okay.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, can you talk to him? And this dude was down, down, down. And I've been around him. I mean, I'm friends with his wife, but I've been around him several times. Down, down, down. And I said to him, like, what could you do to bring about hope? Because you have to do something to bring about hope. And he
Mm-hmm.
said to me, maybe make videos about cooking.
Okay.
Now, why that's so important is because let's say I'm a chef, I'm unemployed, and I'm really struggling. I can't find a job, and I make a video where I show a recipe about hope. I show a recipe about food. When I wake up the next day, I have hope that that video got views. I have hope that that video built me a following. And eventually, he built one of the biggest food platforms on TikTok or Instagram, wherever it was. So when I say pivot, I mean like, what's in your head? What knowledge or skill do you have that you
Mm-hmm.
could show to the world in a way that brings about hope? And that person, he no longer works in a restaurant. He currently makes food videos for people, and he just makes these recipes. He's not particularly funny. He's not particularly engaging. He doesn't look like a model. He just makes these videos, and people really love them. So that's the number one thing I would say is like action leads to hope. So do
Okay.
something so that you can have hope that this action will lead to an outcome. One of the mistakes that people make is they just do the same thing every time. Like, I applied for a job, I applied for a job, I applied for a job. Well, that doesn't lead to hope. That actually leads to despair because you're just doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I would say, figure out different ways to accomplish the thing you want to accomplish. And an example is start a TikTok page. An example is host like host meals in your home. And you know what I mean? Like the example is just kind of endless. And I think too often we get in the tunnel of it's just like, I've got to go online, I've got to find applications, I got to fill out applications. And I would say do something different to bring about hope into your life. Number two is get back in contact with whatever your dreams were.
Mm.
Because, like, what gives us energy is working on something that's meaningful to us and working on something that is connected to a passion that we have. And most of us, I can't say everybody, obviously, but most people, they're not like, they're not working in the job they dreamt they would be working on when they were growing up. So
Mm-hmm.
if you sit down and honestly ask yourself, what is the job that I really would like? And if it could be crazy if you're like, I want to be a sportscaster. Like, get into that. Like, go pursue the thing. I want to be on Broadway. I want to be a chef. It doesn't really matter. Just bring that thing somehow into your life in some sort of a way. Because the greatest way you can give yourself energy is to start working on something that you're passionate about and start working on something that means something to you. And very often we all just have jobs instead of like that person that it's not a job to them. It's so meaningful that it's connected to like the thing that they really can't wait to do. The third thing I would say is drop entitlement and increase gratitude. And what I like, there is literally no mental health challenge that I can think of at this moment that wouldn't be positively impacted by an increase in gratitude. So I would
Mm.
say lower entitlement, because one of the biggest stresses that we have is what I refer to as like the trading places theory. Now, if you've ever seen the movie Trading Places, the old Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd movie, um, we have this fear of like losing it all. We have this fear of like
Mm.
I live in like Manhattan in a big condo and I've got two cars and I've got this life of luxury. But if you watch that movie, when he lost it all, he still had clothing, he still had shelter, he still had a woman who cared for him. He like so drop entitlement and increase your level of appreciation. And when you have high levels of appreciation, then we lose those fears and we realize that I'm still connected to the people that matter. And that's really all that matters. And to give an example of this, I've got a good friend of mine in the business world,
Mm-hmm.
and he has had wild success, tens of millions of dollars throughout his career of success. And he had a really rough couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't say his name because he'd probably kill me, but he probably won't mind me using him as an example. He had a
Those are
really
the
rough
kind of
couple.
people I go like, can I borrow $20?
Man,
No.
this is the kind of person you'd be like, can I borrow $20,000? But he had a really
Yeah.
rough past couple of years, and he took a massive business risk. It didn't work out, and he kind of lost everything. And he and his wife had to move into an apartment from living like the life of luxury. They had to move into a small apartment, trade in their massive, amazing cars, like complete lifestyle change. I saw him about 2 weeks ago, and he was happy and he was his normal charismatic self, gave me a big hug. And there I am being the friend, like, hey, I'm worried about you, okay? And he's like, don't worry about me, I'm fine. And I was like, how are you dealing with this? And he
Mm-hmm.
said, my daughter is happy and healthy. I still have my wife and I will rebuild. And that's the level of gratitude that you have to have. And the truth is, like, I'm sitting here in my home office, in my home in Dallas, not a mansion, but a nice home. I'm not entitled to this. This could all go away tomorrow. There could be a storm, a Wizard of Oz storm, and tear the roof off tomorrow. But as long as like I still have my loved ones, and as long as I still have my health, and as long as I still have the opportunity to continue to pursue rebuilding, then I should be grateful for some of those things. So the third thing I would say is remove entitlement and increase gratefulness.
And I can't help but see that book behind you. Change your questions,
Yes.
change your future. There it is.
Yes. My newest book, actually.
So a lot of it is how we're seeing this very difficult time for millions of people who did not expect to be in the circumstance or situation they're in. I hear more of a accepting what it has happened, but also being okay to hope, dream, pivot, however you want to, characterize that. But that piece about gratitude, thank you for the health. Thank you for, the fact that there is a roof over your head. I think that is difficult in a time where we're so fascinated with the Instagram and the TikTok, and we're seeing people live their best lives. And you hear these stories of folks that are monetizing, being able to share their stories or share their recipes or share whatever the thing is that does move them. For a lot of people, the success that we have seen with folks on the internet and sort of creating brands based off of what they can do, it doesn't always work out that way. So it's doing
True.
something like that without the expectation that you're going to be a millionaire.
True, but most of the thing is like we're so concerned with what other people think about us that we lose sight of the actual mission and purpose. And I'll tell you one quick story about a celebrity that I've worked with. I got a call from a celebrity friend of mine, like an incredibly successful, the kind of celebrity if I said their name, everybody know who they were. And they had
Was it
received an
Beyonce?
offer. No, no. They had received an offer to be in a movie and they experienced this offer as insulting, and they were like, "How do I respond to this insulting offer?" And I said to him, "Do you mind sharing what the offer was?" And to an average person, which I consider myself, it was a lot of money. It was a big number, but I understood why someone at that status and level why he did not experience it as. So I said, "Can you tell me about the day you decided to go into entertainment?" And he was telling me like, I grew up in a impoverished area, and I didn't have a lot of money, and I had to deal with some difficult times in life, and I prayed to turn my life around. Like I literally prayed to turn my life around, and I went to New York City to work on my skills and try to get known, and then ultimately end up in LA, and I started having some success. And I said to that person, if I told that person back then that you'd receive this kind of offer, and how long would you need to be on set? So you're going to get this much money for what amount of time to be on set? And they were like 23 days. And I was like, okay, so if I went back to the version of you that is like praying for success, struggling with life, and if I told that person one day you're going to get an offer for this much money for 23 days, what would that person have said? And he said that person would have cried in tears because that would have been an answer to the prayer. And it's like that's the thing, because the only reason you experience this current offer as disrespectful is you're now worried about what other people think, and you're now thinking about all these other things. When the truth is, this is all an answer to that original prayer.
Hmm.
And I think we have to get back to like that level of gratitude and get back to like we always have to keep the main thing the main thing.
So I do want to ask you quickly though, because that's a great story, and it becomes yeah, it's an insult perhaps. It's a hit to the ego. But
Right,
what about those people who had those good paying jobs in their 40s or 50s, and the rug is just pulled from underneath them,
which
and it's
happens.
not even an offer that's awaiting them on the other side. It's like, how in the hell and where am I gonna go?
But I would say the exact same thing. I would say the three things I said earlier. What were the things you dreamt about even long ago? What's currently in your life that you are still appreciative of? And what new and different things could you pursue that would give you hope that it might work?
Well, we are very grateful that you decided to spend some time with us today to help encourage people. Hopefully, someone will take something away from this. Again, it's a topic that clearly resonated with a lot of people, but it felt like there was a conversation that needed to be had about how folks are dealing with this, because it can be depressing.
It's hugely depressing.
Yeah, I know people personally that are really struggling right now. So I think just personally, it's like whatever words of encouragement or wisdom beyond telling people, how's it going, or keep going, or giving them suggestions.
Right.
But we appreciate the advice that you've given for free. Y'all got a celebrity
For free.
psychotherapist giving you free advice about hope,
Yeah.
dreaming, and activating whatever you need to do to move forward. Now I'm ad-libbing, but let me look at my notes. Gratitude. See,
Gratitude.
you need to have
Gratitude.
gratitude. And we are
Need to have
very,
gratitude.
very grateful for your time.
Thank you, Jericka. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.